You probably heard this story 1,000 times, that human history is just one long, steady climb upwards. From caves to spaceships. Better science, better technology, better everything. And it's a great story, right? But what if it's only half the picture? Today, we're diving into a really powerful idea that suggests maybe we've been looking at our own history all wrong.
So if you look at what we call civilization, our technology, our science, all our stuff, the progress is just undeniable. It's a ladder. Each invention stands on the shoulders of the one before it. The wheel leads to bigger and better things. The printing press changes the world. The telephone connects us. It's a straight line going up. And in that sense, yeah, we are light years ahead of our ancestors.
Okay, but here's the big question, the one that changes everything. Does that same straight line of progress apply to us, to the human being? Are we actually better people than someone living 1,000 years ago? Are we more creative? Do we have deeper souls? This is where that simple, neat story of progress really starts to fall apart.
So, to dig into this, we're going to look at a fascinating theory from a thinker named Elijah Izetbegovic. He suggested that human history isn't one story at all. It's actually two completely different histories running at the same time, side by side. The history of what we make and the history of who we are.
Here's how it works. He basically splits history into two parallel tracks. On one track, you've got civilization. That's the material world, the tools, the tech. It's all about how we live, and that story is all about progress and accumulation. But on the other track, you've got culture. This is our inner world, art, religion, ethics. This is about why we live. And according to this theory, that part of the story, it doesn't progress at all. It's timeless.
Now, this idea really flips a common assumption on its head. The idea that we started as moral cavemen and slowly, gradually became more ethical. This theory says, no, that's wrong. Humanity didn't start from zero. We entered history with a huge initial moral capital. Just look at societies like the Iroquois clans. They had incredibly sophisticated ideas about dignity and freedom long before modern technology. It's like morality wasn't something we had to build. It was something we started with.
All right, so where's the proof? Well, the first big piece of evidence comes from a place you might not expect, the world of art.
This quote just nails it. Think about it. A high school kid in a physics class today genuinely knows more about the universe than Isaac Newton did. That's progress. That's accumulation. But is a modern artist better than the person who painted those incredible bison in a cave 30,000 years ago? The theory says absolutely not.
I mean, just look at this. Is a play by Sophocles from ancient Greece really less moving or deep than a movie today? Is a Mayan sculpture somehow inferior to something made in a modern studio? No way. They're just different. They're all expressions of the exact same timeless human spirit. See, in art, there is no progress. There's just expression. And this is where it gets really interesting. Think about a child prodigy like Mozart writing these genius-level symphonies when he was practically a toddler. There's no way that happens in science, right? A kid can't just dream up quantum physics, but a child can connect with some deep, universal truth about beauty and emotion. It's almost like art doesn't come from experience or education. It comes from somewhere else, from the soul. Okay, so maybe you're with me on art. It's timeless. But what about ethics, our sense of right and wrong? Surely we've gotten better at that over the centuries, right? Well, let's take a look.
Let's just take one of the most basic moral ideas there is, the golden rule. Look at this. It's the same core principle, stated in almost the exact same way, across totally different cultures and hundreds of years. It doesn't matter if you're in ancient China, ancient Judea, or the Roman Empire. The core idea is already there, fully baked. It didn't need to be invented or improved upon.
And it's not just that one rule either. Think about the great moral teachers in history. Moses, Buddha, Jesus, Confucius. Were they just adding footnotes to each other's work, like scientists do? Of course not. Each of them was tapping into the same deep, timeless source of moral wisdom. They were all teaching, in their own way, the very same fundamental truths about how to be a good person.
So, what happens when you put all this together? The art, the ethics? What does this whole two histories idea really tell us about ourselves?
It really boils down to something super simple, but also really profound. Our tools change, our technology evolves at a dizzying pace. Our external world is completely different than it was a century ago. But we don't. Our inner world, our soul, our moral compass, our capacity for love and art and cruelty, that part is constant.
And that brings us to the core thesis of this whole idea. The human being is the constant,
the fixed point in the middle of this hurricane of historical change. We're wrestling with the exact same big questions, the same moral choices, the same joys and sorrows as the people who lived thousands of years before us. The scenery changes, but the actor stays the same.
And that leaves us with the huge and maybe kind of scary final question. Our technological power is growing exponentially. We're putting tools of unimaginable power, AI, genetic engineering, you name it, into our own hands. But if those hands belong to a creature whose basic moral nature hasn't changed one bit since the Stone Age, what does that mean for our future? That is something worth thinking about.